Hi, PerspectaWeather.com meteorologist Paul Dorian here on Thursday, October 31st, Halloween Day. We have some wild weather coming to the Mid-Atlantic region and the Northeast U.S. later this evening into the overnight hours. A powerful cold front is slowly working its way towards the eastern seaboard. It looks like a squall line will form later today along that frontal boundary zone, probably arriving in the immediate I-95 corridor region of D.C., Philadelphia, New York City, after 8 p.m. and the most likely timetable for the heavy downpours expected, along with possible strong to severe thunderstorms and 50-plus mile-per-hour wind gusts, is between 8 p.m. and let's say 2 a.m. or so. In that time period, there will be some tremendous downpours, and again, all associated with a powerful cold frontal system that will bring much cooler air to the region late tonight and on Friday, and then an even colder air mass arrives on Sunday. That secondary frontal system that will usher in the colder air for Sunday could lead the way to the first real widespread freeze in the urban areas of the I-95 corridor region late Sunday night, Monday morning. Well, let's talk about the weather situation for today and tonight. First of all, we have this strong cold frontal system just inching its way across the Ohio Valley this morning, and we have an upper air pattern that will really help to intensify surface low pressure along this frontal boundary zone. That surface low pressure will intensify, accelerate up to the north and east, and all of this will lead to a line of strong thunderstorms, perhaps severe thunderstorms, forming along this boundary zone, and it will basically be oriented from the north to the south, let's say central New York through central Pennsylvania, western Virginia by late in the afternoon, early evening, and then move into the I-95 corridor region, most likely after 8 p.m. or so. You see a warm front on here. Much warmer air compared to what's normal for this time of the year will surge northward today, and it will be an unusually warm Halloween day with highs in the 70s in many areas of the I-95 corridor region. There will be occasional showers, but also much rain-free time as well during the day into the early part of the evening. Again, the main event associated with this system will take place between the hours of 8 p.m. and 2 a.m. in the D.C., Philadelphia, New York City corridor. And by the way, the threat for strong thunderstorms will exist all the way up through New England as well later on this evening into the overnight hours. Well, speaking of a severe weather threat, this is from the NOAA Storm Prediction Center. An enhanced risk exists now from south central Pennsylvania all the way across most of Virginia, eastern West Virginia, down into the central region of North Carolina. But again, this entire area along the eastern seaboard is in line for possible strong to severe thunderstorms later on this evening into the overnight hours as that powerful cold front arrives, and that powerful cold front will be supported by some vigorous energy in the upper part of the atmosphere, a strong jet streak as well, all leading to very intense upward motion in the mid-Atlantic region, northeast U.S. later this evening into the overnight hours. Well, in terms of precipitation, as we begin the day on Thursday, Halloween Day, again, there was a kind of steady area of rain that moved through much of the I-95 corridor in the overnight hours, but that's pulling away as a warm front pulls to the north and east. Will be much rain-free time today, but damp, windy, can shower at any time, but again, some rain-free time as well. This is the area of interest. This represents the main event for tonight in terms of the heavy downpour activity and the arrival of the frontal system. Again, most likely after 8 p.m. Going into the wee hours of the morning. Still some accumulating snow in the cold air on the backside of this frontal system this morning across Iowa, Illinois, and Wisconsin. And there will be some snow late tonight just behind this frontal passage, places like western Pennsylvania, maybe the mountains of West Virginia, all the way down into the Smoky Mountain areas. be a quick change to much colder conditions in the overnight hours once this front passes. By the way, winds today into early tonight will be strong out of the south and southwest, and then we'll shift to a west to northwest direction once the front passes, and there can be 50 plus mile per hour wind gusts tonight in the mid-Atlantic region, the northeast U.S., and of course there still remain many leaves on a lot of the trees around, so that raises the chance for some power outages. A month or two from now, the leaves will be down, and that would help in a situation like this, but still some leaves remaining on the trees could lead to some power outages with those 50 plus mile per hour wind gusts expected tonight. By the way, the severe weather threat includes the possibility of some isolated tornadoes as well. Well, let's take a look at the all-important 500 millibar level, and again, this is really the culprit behind this expected strong squall line that will form along the boundary zone of a frontal system. It's vigorous energy in the upper part of the atmosphere this morning over the Iowa area, over the Central Plains, and watch what happens. It moves to the north and east, and by later on tonight, it takes on what we call a negatively tilted trough axis orientation. With the low in this region right here, the trough axis is kind of extending from the northwest to the southeast, and what that does is promote a vigorous area of upward motion right in the eastern quadrant, really the northeastern quadrant of that upper level low, the upper level jet streak, and that will contribute to some of the severe weather possibilities here in the mid-Atlantic region, the northeast U.S. Again, in the hours of 8 p.m. to 2 a.m. there can be severe thunderstorms, maybe even isolated tornadoes, wind gusts past 50 miles per hour or so, and torrential downpours to go along with it. Then we move into the overnight hours, and it moves off to the north and east. Winds will certainly be noticeable in the morning hours, tend to diminish later in the day tomorrow, but certainly gusts to 30 or 40 miles per hour in the morning hours on Friday in the I-95 corridor region. They'll diminish tomorrow night. Temperatures will drop to near freezing in many suburban areas of the I-95 corridor region, but then we see another wave in the upper part of the atmosphere by a Saturday morning. And this represents another cold frontal system that slides through by Sunday and ushers in a colder air mass for the day on Sunday, and that will lead to perhaps the first widespread freeze of the season so far in the D.C., Philadelphia, New York City corridor from late Sunday night into early Monday morning. Well, let's now walk through the surface forecast maps from last night's 6E GFS model run. Some steadier rain has already pushed through the Philadelphia metro region in the overnight hours, and it'll be more of a showery pattern over the next several hours. Some rain-free time as well. And here we go. By early tonight, this is about 8 p.m. forecast map by the 6E GFS model run. Notice heavy rainfall depicted here by the GFS model. The front arrives right around this time. Again, this is 8 p.m. and later. Also notice on the backside a changeover to snow across the Great Lakes, even down across some of the higher elevations of the Smokies. And this colder air could cause some changeover to snow in places like western Pennsylvania later on tonight. Let's move another 6 hours, and there's that heavy rain into the I-95 corridor region. Look at this pressure gradient here. These black lines here represent lines of equal pressure, otherwise known as isobars. The tighter those lines, generally, the stronger the winds. This is a very intense pressure gradient setting up from the Great Lakes into the Mid-Atlantic region, ultimately into New England as well. Could result in 50 to 60 mile per hour wind gusts in the late evening, overnight hours, and that could lead to some power outages, unfortunately. Let's move forward. Precipitation quickly gets out of here by early tomorrow morning, and the skies will clear. It'll be a mostly sunny day, but much, much cooler than today. Today's highs generally 70 to 75. Tomorrow, generally in the mid-50s in the D.C., Philadelphia, New York City region, with 30 mile per hour wind gusts, especially in the morning, tend to diminish later on in the day, and then setting us up for a cold night tomorrow night. The temperatures have not reached freezing in many parts of the Mid-Atlantic region's I-95 corridor area, and that could change tomorrow night. There could be temperatures down right around the freezing mark with a pretty good setup for radiational cooling as high pressure moves overhead, clear skies, diminishing winds, and then an even colder air mass. Notice these thickness lines here, these dashed lines. They'll tend to drop. This is a 546 thickness right across eastern Pennsylvania as of Saturday morning. Watch what happens here. By Sunday morning, we're down to 534 thickness across central Pennsylvania, 540 closer to the I-95 corridor region. In other words, a colder air mass arrives by Sunday morning, and this is a perfect setup here. We're looking at the forecast map for Sunday evening. Now, high pressure sitting right overhead here late Sunday night into early Monday. A perfect setup for radiational cooling, clear skies, calm winds, and an even colder air mass than what we'll have for Friday night. So yes, we can go down to freezing on Friday night in many of the suburban locations in the I-95 corridor region, but perhaps an even a better chance comes Sunday night into early Monday with a widespread freeze likely here in the I-95 corridor region. So some wild weather coming to the Mid-Atlantic region, the Northeast U.S. later on this evening into the overnight hours. Torrential rain, possible strong to severe thunderstorms, wind gusts 50 to 60 mile per hour, and then much cooler on Friday. It stays quite cool on Saturday and even colder on Sunday. We talked about this yesterday. This frontal system is really a pattern changer, and we've been warmer than normal for much of the month of October. So far, it looks like this frontal system will kind of change the pattern and will be colder than normal for the next couple of weeks in the Mid-Atlantic region, the Great Lakes, the Northeast U.S., and really the much of the month of November looks to be colder than normal in this part of the nation, but warmer than normal out in the western U.S. So watch out for wild weather on Halloween night. That's it for now. For PerspectaWeather.com, I'm meteorologist Paul Dorian.